The Y2K Apocalypse by Internet Historian. There's so many memes that spawn from this.
Let me tell you how the world ended. December 31st, 1999.
Yeah.
Y2K.
I actually wonder how many people today actually know what Y2K is. Like, as far as just like what the acronym is. I feel like it's going to be more than I'm thinking.
Bad will it get?
Everything that could go wrong did. Y2K, the movie.
It was a big event.
To my knowledge, I'm the last survivor. Planes fell from the sky. Expensive Pentium 2s ceased to function. Nuclear launches all around the globe.
I don't know about that one.
Let me tell you about the downfall of mankind.
Sets himself on fire. There's a commentary here about this. So Y2K is an event, from my understanding. It was a data overflow or something like that. So it was, everything was set to 99, right? How we abbreviate our years. So for example, if I were to say September 1st, 2023, right? It would be 9/1/23, right? So you have 12/31/99 going into 1/1/2000. Would 00 overflow that and set it back to 0? Would it overflow and actually set something up in the background so it would hit year 2000? Underflowing would be like 1900 again, right? Or would it just error out? Is the base surface level understanding I have before getting into this.
Scene transition. It all started in the 80s. The synth was waiting.
80s.
The computers were absolute units.
Chonkers.
But the memory was embarrassingly small.
You have to understand, this was a different time. I was talking to my parents a while back, and they were saying that one of their schools, like one of the first like public school available computers, they had an entire room dedicated to that thing. And it could do basic stuff like calculations and stuff like that. Like, you have to understand, like the phones and stuff, even if you don't have the latest phone model, right? Say you have phones that are years old, maybe even a decade at that point, they are still way more powerful than what these things were. These are exponentially more powerful.
So at the time, computer programmers were trying to save every byte they could.
Yeah.
When they programmed in years, the date 1995.
I'm actually going to date myself really quick because I remember when a 1 gigabyte USB from a reputable USB company was like $50 to $60 USD. And that was like early mid 2000s money. That's more today for a singular gigabyte.
For example, became just 2 digits. 95.
Yeah, like I
Good
said.
solution at the time. But as the years went by, people went, hold on a minute.
Oblivion.
What will happen at the year 00?
It's a
And
good
the answer
question.
was, across millions of potential systems, no one really knew they had a problem, and they called it Y2K.
Yahoo.
But let's take a step back. What does Y2K mean?
Isn't it year 2000?
Well, Y is short for year, 2 of course means 2, and K is the scientific symbol for thousand.
I know that we shitpost kids nowadays, and even just people nowadays, for being really stupid sometimes, like eating Tide Pods and detergent, right? No shade at Tide. I mean, people are just using your product in the incorrect fashion, right? They're actually eating and consuming them as you're not supposed to do, right? I mean, in the 90s, we had to have stuff like this to explain what that is. Y2K contextually. Oh, we're looking at the year 2000, right? K, kilo, 1,000, right? I guess, I don't know, maybe that's a metric thing, technically. I digress, though, right? So if you're ever feeling like, society's gotten dumber, I mean, to a degree, kind of, in certain aspects. However, we still had to have this spelled out for people on, like, home television news, right? Because we didn't have, we had cable back then. We didn't really have satellite. We didn't have the services we do now. I mean, it was like you had to turn on your TV and you had to make sure you had your cable bill paid, and you got several channels. I can't remember. Some of the bigger packages had like several dozen. It's been way too long since I've thought about this. Actually, weren't games on channel 2? I can't remember. There's something about that. In any event, if you ever feel like you're stupid, remember this had to be spelled out for people.
Mono means 1.
Yeah.
And rail means rail.
So
I
the
don't know
year
about that one.
00 was coming up. For computers, that could mean 2000. Or it could mean 1900.
The underflow.
Or it could be a nil value.
I see where this is a concern. I would have to have someone with programming expertise try to debunk this, honestly.
Now apply that same
When no
principle to
values come into
something
play.
more important like banking transactions, international scheduled airline departure, or the internal clocks of GPS satellites. And now you see the problem. Systems would start to fail.
Yeah.
The systems will fail, and if one part of it fails, none of it works.
So traffic lights.
So, and that's actually the danger that you run into being not just a content creator, even like an influencer, right, or a public figure. So contextually, if you look at the situation, right, look at this man. He's clearly wearing a suit. He's clearly dressed up for this presentation, it looks like, or this interview, and he's speaking authoritatively about it, right? He has seeming authority in the subject, and what is he saying?
Systems will fail, and if one part of it fails, none of it works.
So, in order to say something like that, I would, expect there be at least some sort of citation there, right? Some sort of, okay, what about all the naysayers? What about everyone with saying that, oh, it could just data overflow or underflow and not give back a null value, right? What about people that are going to say, well, this is a concern, however, this is fine because XYZ is things that I've cited, right? You got to provide some citation to that, or else at that point, you might, it's really just fear mongering, right? If I were to tell you something like, something stupid theoretically, right? Like all institutions have mortgages, and all mortgages, regardless of what they are variable rate, which is just completely untrue, right? There are fixed rate mortgages. There are variable rate mortgages using finance, because I have a background in finance, and it's easy for me to grasp these subjects, right? Easy for me to just pull them out of thin air, right? And I were to say something like that, random viewer, random chat member, Kip, I'm calling Cap. I need citation on that. And you know what? You'd be absolutely empowered to do so. And it's on me. Burden of proof falls onto me to provide that information.
So traffic lights, power systems, water systems, military networks, microwaves, advanced
Help.
AI,
Fucking
the
Zuckerberg.
entire internet.
Oh my God. I remember these. Oh yeah, web pages used to look like this. This is great. Oh my God. This was a time.
It could all potentially domino into chaos.
Yeah.
It is a particularly large global disaster in the making.
Scene transition.
Nice.
So companies got together to spin their way out of the problem. The United States alone invested an estimated $134 billion to fix the bug. But
Yeah.
they had an immovable
130. Wait, what? How much? You have to remember, that's more now. That is more in today's money. That is 13. I thought it said 130. But 134 billion. 134 billion with a B. B is in Bravo. In 2000 and 2001. That is more today, chat. That is, you have to, because you have to calculate that for modern inflation. That is more today. So you have to understand, this was such a big concern, a big issue, especially with the court of public opinion saying, hey, this is going to be an issue, right? And people going on speaking authoritatively, like, oh, this is going to be an issue. There is no doubt this is going to be an issue. If one domino falls, the rest fall, right? This was the power of that public sentiment, of that public stance, of that perception. 134 billion in 2001 money.
bug. But they had an immovable deadline, and only so much could be done leading up to January 1st.
Yeah.
And hitherto, only a fraction of the problem was fixed. Legislators could see the writing on the wall, so the Y2K Act was passed, which protected companies against lawsuits resulting from the bug.
I really feel that that's going to get political, right? So, because my brain is automatically going to, it depends if the company showed negligence and purposely making shortcuts in their code. But because that's a US president signing that in, I'm not going to touch that.
But, as the media reported on the problem in louder and more hysterical terms,
Yeah.
They're preparing for martial law.
I think Y2K financially could be devastating for this nation.
They'll tell you everything's fine. They're lying to you.
Yeah, and how much do I have to donate to not have it happen, right? That immediately follows up from someone like that who's just speaking about, oh, well, they're going to prepare for martial law. However, if you donate, $300 via mail to me, I can make sure to ease your suffer. It's that's what that comes across as to me. If someone says something authoritative like that, especially as a public figure, as these people seem to be speaking as, you got to provide more evidence. You got to provide concrete fact. Laugh track.
Everything ain't fine.
The Y2K problem could abolish all paper currency and coins throughout the world.
A secondary problem arises.
I know I'm pausing a lot. There's just this so dense. Like, I have to laugh because a lot of transactions nowadays are in fact just electronic. I mean, we still have paper currency. Like, we still have USD, you know. I mean, you can go down to a financial institution and within reason, right, you can withdraw however much money you want, right? I think if it's over... Each institution has their own limits, but if it's over a certain amount, you have to kind of call in ahead to make sure that they have the funds ready, right? So say, for example, if you're a millionaire, right, and you bank with, I don't know, example credit union, right? Just random example, right? That doesn't actually exist, right? Example credit union. And you're like, I want to withdraw $500,000 in cash, right? They're going to look at you and be like, so I don't think we have that on hand. So if you're going to withdraw large sums of money, just call in ahead. Just make sure everyone's on the same page, because I don't want, that'd be really shitty to turn into a really, sticky situation for you, because then you're out the money you want, and then the institution's kind of like, well, we want to help you, but we might not have the cash to facilitate that on hand because, certain practices, restrictions, etc. So, yay. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Please definitely, talk to your financial institution and relevant financial personnel that can answer these questions for you. Thanks.
Panic. Ooh. Here's an example. You spend millions of dollars getting your city's water system up to Y2K compliance. Everything's looking good. But the media is feeding people hype.
Yeah.
So a nervous population does what it often does. Ouch! No,
resort to
fill
violence?
the bathtub full of water.
Why?
Just in case.
Drinking,
For
bathing,
obvious
cleaning,
reasons.
filling, measuring this place water to calculate the density of your balloons, right? So I see something like this and I have to just quantify, why? Why? Are you planning to leave it in the bathtub? I wouldn't advise that, right? Because it would be very easy to contaminate. You could lose a whole lot of water. Like, what happens if you have a cat or a dog, right? And they happen to get in the bathroom because you leave it open one day, right? And they just swim in the bathtub. Well, all that water's gone, right? Or right out the faucet. I mean, are you going to bottle it? Are you just going to drink it out the tap? I mean, which you can realistically, I guess. But are you going to boil it after? I feel this is one of those that more thought needs to go into than your average person would probably put into it, if that makes sense.
Well, also what tends to happen is everybody has
water
that
pun.
idea at once at the last minute.
Yeah.
You can imagine what that does to a big city. It kills supply. Then people think there's no water. Why?
So you can't actually see that in finance, though. So, for example, say for example, there was an instance to happen, or I guess theoretically, let's go with COVID shutting everything down in 2020, right? And you have a lot of people that might not feel secure with their finances, right? So they all decide, hey, I want to go withdraw all my funds from the bank, from whatever financial institution at one given time, right? And so what does that lead to? That leads to effectively a run on the institution. And it's not even that the institution could absolutely have the required funds. It's not necessarily that, oh, well, the bank's out of money. They were over leveraged and, they don't have the funds anymore. It could just be that because so many people went to the institution and the institution did not have all that cash on hand to facilitate, all these transactions, it could then lead to a similar effect, right? Where, public perception is panic and it's going to turn into, potential violent scenarios if it gets bad enough, right? I mean, we see this at other things, especially when supply gets cut off, but demand skyrockets through the roof.
Y2K is on for sure and panic explodes in the streets. Boy, there was potential here for real disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was up to citizens like us to take matters into our
I love that he's just
hands.
continually burning.
Welcome to the Y2K Expo. Everything you need to survive the apocalypse. We bought survival bunkers.
They think I'm mad. Mostly. But then they want a place.
Mostly?
In the bunker.
We bought seeds.
Seed?
We bought a library of literature.
Nice.
We bought into pretty much everything.
Call now and get the ultimate Y2K survival kit from...
Oh my God, I remember these commercials. It reminds me of the time I worked at a box store, and these commercials still exist in a certain capacity. I worked at a box store, and I worked the overnight shift, and I never got to break until 11 at night, right? And so I'll walk into the break room at 11 at night, and it's like, are you lonely tonight? Call now. And I'm like, can I legally be watching this at work? I'm not even tuning into this. I just walked in the break room, and this is on the TV. Am I going to get in trouble for this? Like these commercials like this still exist, and it's kind of wild to me to think about that, considering we live in, you know, the modern digital and internet age. But like, yeah, no, this was, man, I remember this. What was it, like Zoo Books or Zoo School or whatever? You had Kids Bop commercials. There were so many of these. This is a trip down memory lane, this whole video.
But Y2K just kept creeping closer.
Yes, it do.
And soon, it was time to say goodbye to loved ones.
Nice.
It was time to say goodbye to the world as we knew it.
Yeah.
From my bunker, I could hear the bombs go off. The destruction. Just unimaginable. Let me just sit.
So you have to understand as well that when people, and we see this with camping at the end of the world. I'll probably redo that video at some point soon, because there was some definite scuff in that one when I reacted to that. When people feel like the end is near and they start to abandon their inhibitions, they will in fact just rack up debt, right? Because I can, not saying to do this, right? I would definitely speak to your financial advice. I have to say this for legal reasons. You have to understand, right, chat? I have to say I can't recommend this. I can't say you do financial thing for XYZ reasons, because I'm not a licensed financial advisor. That just opens me up to liability. I don't want that, right? Do your research. Or was I saying a thing about, so people will, in fact, they'll just go and, like, you know, take out high interest loans or take out new credit cards and just max it out because, I'm not going to need that tomorrow. Whether that's, you know, right or not, I mean, is really dependent on the person's situation and realistically up to them. However, we do see this situation where people, when they think the end is near, when they think that, you know, that inhibition is, you know, they're past it, you know, they'll do stuff like that. They'll max out a credit card, they'll max out a HELOC, they'll max out, you know, a high interest loan to get a bunker.
Real quick.
Nice.
Nope.
Simpson wave.
Nope. Close.
No copyright music.
Yeah. It's all gone now. The small things that went unappreciated. The great moments of our time. There is no going back. The date today is somewhere around 2018. It's finally time to step back into the world.
Final Fantasy VIII.
With whatever horrors that may bring.
Right.
I don't know what I'll find out there. Mutants, cannibals, different factions of bandit. I just hope I'm ready to take it all on.
And then absolutely nothing happened.
Get it? He steps out, and then it's the cabin from season 5. It's all connected.
You lost me.
It's such a deep and encompassing lore. Remember when I used to make good content?
Got
me
him.
neither. Scene transition. Okay.
Scene transition.
I was only partially right about the whole doomsday thing. The world didn't end. But in Australia, some of the vending machines stopped working.
Right.
And the International Weather website displayed the wrong year.
Nice.
Also this.
It's not French, that's Spanish, right? Yeah, it's Spanish. Yeah. See, it's just data underflows at that point because it doesn't understand that it's 2000. In fact, the 00 is representative of 1900, so it begins to loop.
So that must have been annoying to fix.
In hindsight, that's pretty funny. Actually, to be honest, at the time, I thought it was pretty funny. I worked in the airline industry for years as an avionics engineer. I knew that no planes were going to fall out of the sky.
$500 billion well spent.
Yeah. 500 billion. Whoa. That is obscene. $500 billion for what effectively was nothing. That's depressing a little bit. Wow. What was your Y2K experiences? Did you experience this firsthand? Do you have family members that experienced it firsthand? Please keep it apolitical and keep it nice in the comments. That was an excellent video. Thank you, Internet Historian. And we'll see you on the next one.